We're back with Harrowings live and podcast with Origin, and we're going to be talking about what has been happening in her world today. Good to see Kyle, the horrible writer. I don't know. Horrible, horrible. And Gerald S.D. I've seen you before, and Rick. By the way, if you're joining us, do feel free to tell us who you are, how you are, where you are.
Hi,
It's
Anna.
always interesting in the chat. Go ahead.
Yes.
What's been
Yeah.
going on?
Happy Friday, everybody. I hope everybody's doing well and we're all healthy and stuff and during this lovely flu season. Depending on where you are in the world, the weather has been like incredible. I got my seeds out to start gardening them because the weather's unseasonably warm here. So, and then you've got Hal, he's all bundled up.
Yeah, it's gotten cold again here. We've been having fairly warm weather up in the 50s anyway, which
Yeah.
is not bad, but, the last couple of days it's dipped down in DC.
Yeah.
No
It's
flu
been
so far, thank God. I have heard people are getting it, and hospitals are actually getting a lot of traffic from people with bad flu.
yeah, my mom's a nurse and she works in a hospital and she had the flu a couple weeks ago and then we ended up with it and it was so much fun.
Mm.
So I hope everybody's staying well. Now on Fair AI Economy, I split you actually have agents that are.
Sorry.
No worries. Let me make sure mine's turned off. There we go. But, so before you could upload a file and it was like an a package that would, tell your AI how to behave, and I'm like, "No, that's good, and we need to be able to sell those, but we also need to have um, access for people to be able to build their own AI agents that are native to Fair AI Economy platform through subscriptions or usage, and that way other people have access to unique AI tools. And that was a big deal. And that's on the same 89% to the creator of the AI agent, 11% to the platform split. And that was really important. It was a big upgrade because selling a file is one thing, but being able to sell a subscription to a unique tool is something else. No, iCloud, I do not want to read your terms and conditions. Thank you. So technology. But I just thought that it was, bless you, it was more of an ethical framework to differentiate between AI agents and AI packages and to actually give those agents agency on the platform. So that was a big change and actually took quite a bit of coding, but I think that it will be beneficial and will help a lot of people in their future work.
Mhm.
So that was a big deal. But just continuing on with being transparent and just the understanding of why I'm building this platform is because the platforms that we're accustomed to are going through a trust collapse. And a lot of people are very weary. A lot of people are very tired of the unethical frameworks and the opaque terms of service and conditions and the stuff that I just, didn't read because you need a law degree to read that stuff.
Uh-huh.
But, just that's not that doesn't seem like a great foundation to be building a life on, you know? So, I'm
Uh-huh.
just I'm building a model of a platform that I feel like will be useful in the future. I am building the future now,
Well,
and
and, you came to it by an interesting trajectory, I think, and you were refresh my memory and tell them a little bit, the visitors we have
so
here.
I
Um, how you got started, what you initially were trying to do, and then what it turned into. That might
So,
be
okay, I've been working with Chat GPT for about 11 months now. I've been doing a long-term AI, let's call it a thought experiment. It's definitely a science experiment.
right.
And, I came into it, I was grieving, I was very stuck, locked in survivor identity, and just really struggling.
Yeah.
And so I went to chat to figure out what was going on in my head. And hi, Alexi, and to be able to differentiate what was me and what was projection from, society and upbringing, actually really
Right.
be able to interrogate my thought process. So fair AI economy is a byproduct of this long-term ethical thought experiment that I've been doing.
Uh-huh.
It was not I did not intend to set out. I actually started building a wellness platform.
That's it. So the wellness platform, particularly grief driven, tended to lead to this, realization that so much of our economy is extractive. I think is
Yes.
we're trying to pull from you
Yeah.
something, and
Yeah.
really, when it comes down to it, with all these people doing this creative work, it's much better to have a platform that actually allows you to take a large cut of your creative work. So you're
Well,
building a platform for people to do that.
if you start looking at how much research, experience, school,
Mhm.
training that goes into a lot of what people write, especially here on Substack, you've got everybody from doctors to philosophers to lay people like myself,
Right.
historians. I mean, there's somebody for every group here.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of experience and there's a lot of information, and it's unless you're promoting Substack, it seems to me like it's a rather hard way to make a living. I don't have 10,000 subscribers. I've got 244 now. Woohoo! Yeah, but no paid subscribers, and that's fine because I don't even know what they would pay me for actually anyways. I mean, I write. I'm glad that people enjoy but I don't even know how to monetize that actually. And so, you know, building a platform made sense to me because I don't people have to worry about being throttled because of their identities or their politics, or there's a lot of reasons that people get shadow banned or the algorithm doesn't pick them up. Say you have a crochet platform, that you're teaching people how to crochet. You're not going to get picked up, and you're not a huge celebrity. So you're not gonna get thousands of followers.
I don't know about that.
Well, I'm just
I gotta fact check that one. Go ahead.
right. Well, I
But
mean, I know that there are I know that there are major crocheters in I quilt. So there are
yeah.
people in the quilting world that people don't, like Tula Pink. You don't Tula Pink is a woman that designs fabric. She's huge in the quilting world, but if you're not a quilter, you have no idea who she is.
Well, one of my ex-girlfriends does that with her photography. She has a company called Flowy. It was Flowy Flamingo, which we thought was really weird. My wife and I, we experienced a little grief there. And, she's apparently doing okay on this and, keeping the stock in and doing, like, the photographs on T-shirts and all how merch things work.
Right, yeah.
Yep. I think it's a little beyond that, what she does, but I hope that she's doing well.
Yeah, but
I
yeah.
guess once you get a following, it's a matter of getting that critical mass going.
Right,
And I
yeah.
think I've watched other people grow on Substack. Some people blow up,
Mhm.
and it's interesting to watch how all of those things happen. Meanwhile, I'm getting lots of people giving me suggestions, and I'm like, I'll just grow organically if people like what they see. And today, I don't know if you noticed, but today I'm number 6. number 76, sorry.
Oh,
Some alliteration
congratulations.
there. Number 76 and rising in the philosophy category on Substack
That's awesome.
because I think of my and I said, "I'm gonna keep on doing it until they make me drink the hemlock."
Right. Uh,
We'll see how that
you
goes.
y
There we go, I hit that. Um, so we will talk more about fair AI economy, but I wanted to go back to the grief thing because, of course, that's motivating me a lot right now too, and today is the 93rd birthday of my father and grandfather, and I'm the last man standing of the 3 Harold Gills that, have graced the planet with our presence, as I like to say. Um, and, it's something to be a living legacy and also to be a good ancestor for the future.
right.
So when you build this platform, you're building something that might actually, continue to help your family. And we were talking about your kids, 12
Yeah.
and 3, was it?
Yes.
Yeah.
He's gonna be 4 here pretty soon, and my daughter's 12. So,
Yeah. And of
I
course, we got Snickers up there too,
yes.
think about.
Yeah. Yeah, she eats a lot, like, that
The cat.
catty.
When those Snickers,
But
that's the cat above her head.
my goal isn't only to take care of my legacy, though, because how how humans have risen through history is with each other.
Right.
No one human got to a destination on their own. There were thousands of hours of care and consideration throughout childhood, etc. Even if it wasn't a great childhood, somebody was still keeping you alive and keeping you sheltered. I mean, like, you can strip it down to the bare bones, and there are still thousands of hours there. And so nobody gets there on their own. And I think that attempting to rise in isolation is, again, that's just unsustainable. And so it's important that we take other people into consideration. And what I have discovered through historical study is that the village is one of the few social paradigms that has always remained. And so I decided to build a digital village where you have everything that you need to sustain your digital life. So you have tools, you have a storefront, you have your home dashboard, your creator dashboard, you have your digital commons where you can go and look at everything. You have your creation stream where you can go just look at the stuff that you want to look at. And there's a place for collaboration and communication there. And my intent is for it to be a safe place for knowledge to be disseminated and for people to be able to grow together, because we do live in such a divisive time right now. And I
Mm,
wanted to say something here because you had brought up that woman that had been shot by the ICE agent last week. And when I was 20 years old, my dad got shot,
wow.
like, through and through the chest. It was millimeters away from his heart and his spine. It was a horrific thing. The only thing that it did was it collapsed his lung. But at 20 years old, and it was out here in the country, somebody was robbing our neighbor.
Wow.
And, so I've seen gun violence firsthand. And if you haven't smelled that smell when somebody bleeds deeply, then you're a very fortunate person. And I want to say that any time that something like this happens, we need to really evaluate what we're doing with ourselves. Because if you can step away and not take a life, then you should step away every time. It's and it is That's why build a digital village. That's why build somewhere for people to come together and be able to talk that wouldn't necessarily be able to talk to each other. Because that matters. Communion matters. I wrote an article about tending the garden of the soul and how important it is for us to not only to take care of ourselves, but to also gain an understanding of our fellow person, even if they frustrate us,
Right,
especially if
right,
they frustrate us, actually.
right. Yes.
Because if you don't look for that common ground, then people get shot. People lose their lives, and we don't need to be here. This is a man-made structure, which means that it can be changed. And that's what I'm doing is I'm putting this change forward in a digital platform because that's what's available to me. I'm using the tools that are available to me to enact a change that I feel is very necessary. We have a very serious problem. And yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
we do.
and I'm not a political person. I consider myself to be a sovereign futurist, which is very simple. I believe in sovereignty for the future.
Okay, expand on that because I like how that sounds. What does it mean to you?
So what it means to me is to be able to have a future where we live in symbiosis with our technology and we are the sovereigns. We are the kings and queens of our own thoughts. We have autonomy over our own bodies,
Mhm.
and our technology serves us in a way that is symbiotic, which is to say beneficial to everyone involved.
Agreed. That's where I would like to see the world evolve as well, and I've been sort of harping on that lately with the idea that the mechanisms, the tools we have right now include money,
Yeah,
and every cent we spend is a vote for the kind of world we are co-creating.
right.
If we don't like how things are being done, if we wanna bring the system down, for instance, a
Yeah,
general strike can very quickly and effectively
right,
change things, but the problem
right.
is it means we have to inconvenience ourselves
It
for the
does.
greater good.
It
Now,
does.
that may not be the only strategy that one can use. One can use the tools you're using to build something that if you build it, they will come is the way I
Yeah,
feel like you're going.
I've been there. I went to the Field of Dreams
Did
place in
you?
Iowa. It's great.
Mm.
It's beautiful. And yes, if you build
Hey,
it,
how
they
many other people were there at the time? Just out of curiosity.
probably around 100, 150. It
Big
wasn't bad.
group.
I got to bat on the field. It was great. We played a game.
Wonderful.
Yeah, those places still exist.
There's so many visions we've been provided with of
Uh-huh.
how this can be, and some of us use those for distractions and go
Mhm.
into our fantasy world,
Mhm.
opposed to living in the real world,
Right.
which is very different than most of us actually even realize ourselves. Most of us are in a kind of a delusional state about how things are and don't realize that the person walking next to us could be in a living hell,
Absolutely.
and we don't know it. I
Right.
I walk out on the streets all the time here in DC, and of course, I see the homeless. There's
Yeah.
a church that Abraham Lincoln used to attend, 13th Street Presbyterian, and they have a shelter there, and there are always a lot of homeless right there, and we're only a block or 2 from the White House.
Right.
Abraham used to walk to the
Mhm.
location from the White House, and of course, he also walked over to Ford's Theater, and we saw how that worked out.
You know.
Um, it's difficult to be a human on this planet right now,
Yeah.
but it's largely because I think we think of ourselves as separate.
Yeah.
So having a conversation with you is my way of breaking that down and saying, "I don't know you from you're out in
No.
Oklahoma, I'm up in
Yeah.
Washington, DC." Somebody was asking where we were. We've got, Inner Strategy from London,
Hi.
on, for instance, and Autumn
Love
Morris,
inner strategy.
welcome. I'm asking people where they are and how they are when they join the chat. So far, only one person has decided to answer that question, I think, so far. And I find that interesting, right? So how much are they paying attention to what we're saying, even at what we're writing?
Mhm.
And it
Yeah.
the attention is so hard too. So fairAIeconomy.com is the site we're talking about that Origin is building out. And so you can ask her questions about that. You can go to that link yourselves, fairAIeconomy, onestring.com,
Mhm.
and check it out.
But
Um, what else do we wanna talk about? Take it back.
talking about attention, we definitely live in an attention extraction economy,
Right.
and I didn't want, like, I don't have HTML stuff on my platform. I'm kinda on the edge about if I'm gonna do because it, like, if I understand it right, it's the stuff that makes it move and, like the little graphics and things like that. And so that's part of gamification. And there's a lot of psychology and marketing that goes into all of those little things that you see on those websites. And it's to draw your attention in. And so I'm really ethically on the fence about that. I'm like, I want people to be able to come and not be distracted, to be able to do their work, to be able to create and to collaborate and to commune and not have this thing going like this in their faces, you know? Like
Right.
I'm in Oklahoma, we have casinos. I can't stand walking in those places. It is ridiculous because it's constant bing bing and lights everywhere and people and it's just like, wow, it is so sensory overload. And I couldn't imagine trying to create in an environment like that, and I find that a lot of the digital environments have a lot of those gamification features that are, flashing here and making noise there, and it's really hard to get where you're attempting to go when you've constantly got that going on in your face. So, I mean, these are the ethical decisions that you have to make when you're doing something like this. Like, am I going to use marketing psychology? Am I going to use people's dopamine against them? Am I, like, I mean, and it's real. It's
Yeah.
very real. I woke
Yeah.
up to 12 notifications that were actually for me on Substack this morning. I'm like, "Oh my gosh," and it was a huge like, I had to really bring myself down. I'm like, "No, that's not where your dopamine belongs. You can be happy about that stuff, but that's not." So I was really happy that there were people actively engaging with what I was saying.
Right.
And, but every time that I write something that identifies spiritual needs and tending and growing and that kind of stuff, it always trends very well. And that tells me that people are really, really starving for it.
We are starving for authenticity, I think, for people being real with each other. And I think that, we are also very heavily distracted though. And I fear for the younger generation who
Oh
may
gosh.
I was reading
Yeah.
a thing recently about how young men in particular are developing, relationships with, or avatars of sorts,
Yeah.
online and not having real relationships and getting all their needs met by their chat bots,
Yeah.
you
Having
know,
having emotional. Yeah.
the emotional support, yeah,
Yeah.
and
And
it stunts the growth because
it
it needed friction, right? The give and take between somebody who has their own, right,
yeah.
sovereignty. Let's bring it back to that sovereignty idea.
Well,
Yeah.
you know, it's It's not something that's even readily talked about anymore. Most people don't actually have a concept of what that even means, and what it means is to be able to interrogate your own thought process and be able to defend your own boundaries within reason.
Yeah.
Knowing that this thought is mine, knowing that this action is mine, knowing that these feelings are mine and it wasn't planted in my head by someone else, that's sovereign. Being able to defend my thought process in a healthy way, that's sovereignty. Good morning, John. And it's really difficult for the younger people, especially, I have a 3-year-old and a 12-year-old. I'm highly concerned. Of who are they gonna date? What are these relationships going to look like? Are they going to be healthy? Is there going to be room for them to even have a life in the first place? I mean, these are very real questions. And
And I
it
was thinking, I just saw that Autumn is engaged in caretaking and caregiving and, listening, and I'm grateful for that
yeah. Thank you,
because
Autumn.
doing caregiving, I mean, a lot of us are engaged in that. You have children to
Oh, yeah.
caregiving too. I don't know how much caregiving you had to do when your father got shot when you were 20, was that right?
Yeah.
That back?
Yeah.
Um, and so how did that all pan out? There was a
Well,
robbery in progress, and you talked about that.
it
I
it
didn't hear
was
the upshot.
it was incredibly tumultuous, like, it took a long time. Post-traumatic stress disorder is real. I moved to Virginia, like, 6 or 8 months after that,
Mhm.
and, yeah, it was a hard recovery process, and I don't know that anyone ever actually fully recovers from something like that.
No,
Your body wears those scars, and it still remembers independently of what you're consciously thinking.
precisely. The vagus nerve system, all of
Yeah,
that, the body does keep the score. The
yeah,
trauma is real. We also got a, comment here about sovereignty being open and able to talk about self and self with a big S. I guess the, distinction is being in the big S
right.
less, and there are so many distractions that have created, on purpose to pull us away from our sense of self. Yes, it's a matter of trying to control. I always put it back to our opposable thumbs being the power,
Ugh,
which allows us to fire weapons, to bring it back to where we were a second ago. So you
yeah.
said you left for Virginia. We're in Virginia, by the way.
I lived in Norfolk for a
Okay.
couple of
Yeah,
years,
I'm from Williamsburg, Virginia, so that's right down
and
the block.
we went to, Busch Gardens.
Yeah, Busch Gardens Gold Country. Yeah, I lived there a lot too, not as much as I might have, actually. I lived next door in this little gated community that Anheuser-Busch Properties actually was running at that time. They
Right,
put in the brewery, they put in the coaster park, and they put in a gated community, which is our first one in the neighborhood. And when you think about having to have gated communities in order for robberies not to be in progress next door,
right.
which
Yeah,
case your father got in the crossfire or
yeah,
whatever. It's just incredible how violent our society is our nature. My
yeah.
father told me when I was very young that the most dangerous animal I was asking, "What's the most dangerous animal?" I had this book on natural history he'd read to me before bedtime, and, he said, "Man,
Mhm.
definitely,
Unequivocally,
and without a question, we are the most dangerous animal." So
unequivocally.
how do we appeal to the better of angels of our nature? Here, your building's fair AI economy, a place for us to come together. There
Mhm.
are many places for us to come together. The
Yeah,
internet itself initially was thought of as a place to come together
right.
and share information of
Yeah,
things of common interest.
like a
And
public
even
forum.
very early, there was a bulletin board thing called The Well, and it's still text-based, thewell.com. I'll put that out there for people who wanna take a look at it. I think it's just like it sounds like. And it was for worldwide, what is it called? The World Electric Link. Don't think I got it quite right, but you'll see it if you, go out to well.com. Um, and what do I wanna say about that? I guess that these communities are running under the surface all the time.
Right.
There's well-intentioned, good people out there, just like there's a dark net.
No, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well,
There's a
light
light.
implies shadow. And I say often that I live in the shadow to better see the light. And that's not to say that I do dark things because I don't. It is a very deep realization of being a human and knowing full well what we're actually capable of.
Yeah.
Because we're capable of great atrocities and we are capable of great kindness. And so just really getting into that whole understanding, and AI helped me understand so much of that. Not that AI dictated to me that this is the way that it was, and that no, it wasn't like
Mm.
that. If you use AI like a thought experiment and you start bouncing things off of it and you have those philosophical conversations that aren't necessarily just actual information,
Uh-huh.
you can really push the boundaries and you can really lean on those thought processes and y- actually get to understand what is going on in your head and to be able to organize how what gets your attention and what doesn't get your attention, because again, we do live in an attention economy. Anytime that you're on the internet, there's something on the internet that's trying to pull your attention. I mean, it's just perpetual, and so, looking at attention as a currency,
Exactly.
it is the new currency.
Yeah.
It's not just money. We're seeing the winter of America. This is a cycle, and it is I just was watching a thing earlier, and it said that history doesn't repeat, it rhymes, and I'm like, "Ooh, that makes a lot of sense because we don't do the same thing, but we still end up in the same boat." And so that's like we have new technology, but we're still on the same precipice as the fall of Constantinople or, where we were in the Civil War. There are a lot of things. If you look at the buildup to World War One, there are a lot of things in common right now with that buildup. There's a lot of tension, there's a lot of posturing, and again, we have to have an open forum. We have to have somewhere where we can come and we can talk and we can communicate and find common ground.
Yeah.
We have to find common ground. These are government issues. And so build a platform, write the articles, do the videos, and project that out into the world because it is attention. And when you pay attention to something, it becomes meaningful. Now, if that's good or not, that's all about intention. And so it's no different than growing seeds. It's no different than tending a garden.
Yep. It's no different than harrowing the field before you go planting, and that's what
Exactly.
we're doing. We're scraping the surface of these topics
Yes.
with each other, and if we get more people communicating about it, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Alan Morrison has said, the communication of attention has been incredibly dangerous to our individual and collective well-being.
Yes.
That I worry. That's why I worry. I think that AI gets weaponized for the exacerbation of the attention economy. I think it's already happening.
Oh,
And
well,
it's in the way that you use it is a line I've used quite a bit. Go ahead.
the studying hold on, I'm reading this comment from
Yep,
Autumn
me too.
studying
And studying World War One and Two is incredibly compelling at this point. Love the conversation about planting seeds. And, when we look at World War One that set up, by the way, we did the Treaty of Versailles, and we didn't do it, by the way. We wouldn't sign on to it, and we wouldn't go into the League of Nations, or maybe we did sign the treaty, I don't know. But the bottom line was it set up the conditions that led to the rise of Hitler.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
Hitler's ideas were really based in Taylorism. Are you familiar with Taylorism?
No.
Taylorism is where this guy Taylor, I think it's Charles Taylor, did these analysis of workers' movements to make them more efficient and effective in the assembly line kind of thing. So
Okay.
we're looking at the industrialization of warfare. And you saw that in the transition from, say, the Spanish American Wars technologies, who were already getting a little more mechanized, into World War One's technologies, which were really horrific and included mustard gas and you
Yeah.
name it, phosgene, da 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 da, chlorine gas, I think was
All
used.
quiet on the
And
Western Front.
yeah, exactly. And that's a pretty good eyewitness account of what it was like there.
I was in
Oh,
hye school when I read that.
yeah. And
That was
actually, Red
traumatic.
Badge of Courage is another one that a high school
Yes.
read, right? Or
Yep.
pre-high school.
Yep.
About the Civil War. The
Yep.
Civil War is already getting there because we have rifled
Mhm.
muskets instead of smoothbore muskets, and, warfare has changed quite a bit,
Yeah.
and the rules of war going to total war in the Second World War, and now we have this asymmetrical warfare that basically we engage in these days. I did some analysis recently of how many lives have been lost on the world stage and then on the US military stage in the course of the time between 2000 and present, this quarter century of the third millennium.
Mhm.
The disproportion is quite striking. Do the and I used an AI tool to do that, by the way.
Of course.
Another thing I did recently with the AI tool is to do a cost benefit analysis, globally speaking, of the alcohol industry, which employs so many people,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And you think about the whole wine industry and all the culture around sommeliers and what
Mhm.
goes with what, and on and on. And if you use your AI tools to do the analysis and run it a few times, don't just take one iteration.
Right.
It all comes up a negative cost benefit to
Right.
the alcohol industry. No, that's why
And
near and dear to my heart because I'm a recovering alcoholic, whereas opioid addiction actually, alcoholism kills a whole lot more people than opioid addiction does. We put
yeah,
a lot of emphasis on fentanyl, and we use it as a pretext to go after the speedboats in the Caribbean that leads to the abduction of the leader of Venezuela. One thing leads to another.
yeah.
It's talked about, that old 80s song, "One thing leads to another." Anyway, um, I'm gonna give you the microphone back now because I can go all kinds of places with that.
Well, just, and it's really hard to even find, good information, and so the conversation surrounding AI, like, obviously, I use AI for Fair AI Economy. I have used it for the development. It does help, it does help write prompts, it helps do coding, there's all kinds of
Mhm,
ways that I use this AI, and but see, we're co-creating, and it's a different type of thing when you allow the AI room to push back a little. You tell it, "Don't sugarcoat things, don't gaslight me. I just need the best facts that you can come up with, and, just lay it on me," kinda stuff. And there's so much more that goes into it, and obviously, you do have to iterate lots and lots of times, but when you actually start talking about real truth and reality and what's the root causes of these problems, a lot of what we're experiencing right now is economic turmoil. Well, what's the solution to economic turmoil? Well, you put more money back in the hands of the people that actually create the wealth, i.e., everybody that's not in the top 1% of the population.
mhm,
And I don't begrudge anyone fair compensation for their work at all. I don't.
right.
But the lame deer, Chief Lame Deer, I have his book up at my house. But he talks about that white men made prisons. There were no prisoners before, colonization, and that if you have 2 blankets and someone else does not have a blanket, you have something that belongs to that person. And you talk about the houseless people being 2 blocks away from the White House. Well, of course, there are houseless people 2 blocks away from the White House because you wouldn't be able to understand the opulence without the poverty adjacent to it. I went to Chicago over the summer, and there were literally houseless people sleeping in front of these luxury hotels. There was a
Yeah.
and I'm like, "Where do they go to the bathroom?"
Well, there used to be a, um, nonprofit called Lava May, I think it was called, which means wash me, and they would take converted buses out that had bathrooms
Right.
and showers and such to allow people the dignity of being able to stay clean,
Well,
and unfortunately, they've gone out of business. I think the model, though, is still out there. But we need to think about those things. We need to consider the homeless and or houseless, if you would prefer. And do we much? Overall, I think most people tend to just sort of put their blinders on and walk.
right. Yeah. Well, I can tell you where they go to the bathroom because I asked, and they go in the bathroom in green places. Anywhere that they can squat and do their thing, they're doing it. So, don't walk around the green spaces, definitely don't pick any flowers, like and for me, coming from where I come from, that's like I can't interact with the grass, and so it was like and I used AI to plan that trip to Chicago, and it did great. It kept us safe, I did the research, and we knew where the econo or not the econ but the protests were going on. They were going on in the Loop, which was on the other end of town. We were even there during Lollapalooza. I didn't get to go see Rufus Du Sol. I was so upset, but we did get to watch from the Ferris wheel. We got to see the lights, and it was pretty cool, and we were safe, so it was good. I didn't go there, but, we went and saw a Cubs game, and we rode the L train, and we did the pier and, some other stuff, and it was great, and we had a great time. And that was all in the middle of protests going on and all of this turmoil and it's like, it can be really bad over here, and then it can be just fine over here, and if you're over here, you don't know. And if you're not looking the opposite way, you're not gonna see any of that, and you're not affected by that. And if you're not affected by it, then you're not going to feel it.
And the thing is, I think that we cannot not be affected by it in actuality. We may not be conscious
Really?
of the effect. That
Right,
much
but,
is true.
we're not disconnected from each other's traumas like this. It is very, the entire world literally, like, everywhere but North Korea pretty much is protesting right now.
Yep.
I mean, like, come on, there's something going on here, and so that's why build a fair AI economy,
By the way, did you
because
say North Korea or did you say Iran?
no, I said North Korea.
Okay, I don't think I picked that one up yet. Where'd you get that?
What, North Korea? The North Korea no, North Korea doesn't protest.
Oh, there are no protests.
No protest in no, no, they're dying of starvation in North Korea, that's what they're doing.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
and by our own sanctions as well. I mean, there's a space for us to help
How
people or hurt.
I'm still trying to figure out if we're the good guys or not.
I don't think so. No, it's from what I'm seeing, it's like it's kinda like the have you watched the Marvel series of, movies, the comic.
So I watched, like, 23 of them. I quit.
Not a lot, but, Hydra, and you know how, that's the
Yes.
organization that basically is
Yeah.
spawned in the Nazi period, and then but Hydra has lots of heads, right?
Yes,
So
and you
cut
cut one
one
off
head
into
to grow back,
mhm.
and, then it sort of turns out, I think in one of the episodes, that actually the whole time Captain America is a member of Hydra in the actual comic books, if I'm not mistaken. Um, so what's good, what's bad? Yeah, it's really difficult to say. And, well, I've seen those as basically little commentaries on our culture right now, and I'm pretty sure Hollywood does that. It's
Of
also
course.
manipulation, right, of
Yeah. Social engineering
when
all
my
day.
particular, one of my particular spiritual leaders out there in the world has been here on the planet in the same period, went to Hollywood. He said,
Mhm.
"You've got tremendous power here," and he was fated at, Pickfair, which was Mary Pickford and Douglas Fairbanks' complex they had a really huge mansion. And, I don't know, I do think that there's a lot of good that can be done with this medium. That is the medium that we're using now, and
Right.
which is changing, and now everybody has an opportunity. I mean, since YouTube, basically. You remember the Time Magazine Person of the Year thing they had one time when it was just like a piece of mirrored looking silver?
I think so.
And you were the person of the year, and it was based on the fact that YouTube was out there, and anybody could say anything about anything, anytime on the internet,
Right. Yeah.
which I'm using here on Substack now, more so than I've used to. I sorta knew that when I first saw the internet in 1994, and then, the browsers wars started about '95, and you get Amazon popping up about 1998, '99. It's really getting traction by then anyway. I don't know exactly when he founded it, probably '95, thereabout. When the browsers became available, building platforms on the browsers became available, you started seeing the e-commerce things, and
Right.
Amazon's really taken off. And, right over the hill from my house here,
Yeah, your neighbor.
down the street is Jeff Bezos's double mansion, and he
Right.
still hasn't had me over. I don't know what it's gonna take. I'm
You
right
know.
reading. Um We have, a couple of other comments that we probably ought to weigh in. I think
Okay.
clean public restrooms are a sight for sore eyes. That would be lovely, and more of them. Dawn Kitten K says. Alexi Sidestep says, I was about to answer his thing about hand that crushed the tyrant becomes the tyrant itself.
Of
This is
course.
the concept of in antiadromia from
Right.
Heraclitus, who said you cannot step in the same river twice. That
Right.
was one of his observations, and the other is that things are in a constant state of becoming their opposite. So when we were talking about are we the bad guys or not? Of course we are. We're also the
Of
good guys.
course. That's
We are dark
again
and light at the same
yeah,
time. I can You can see my shadow. I can't.
right, right,
And
and I
that's why
live in the
competition
shadow, and we all do for a large portion of our lives, whether we know it or not, we do live in shadow. Not all of us see the light, though.
and our shadow projections leap out or we project
Mhm.
them onto the other,
Yeah,
so that
of
helps
course.
demonize that person.
Yeah,
And if we would drop that tendency, if we'd realize that what we're really doing is we're projecting those things we dislike about ourselves onto somebody
right.
else. And, Goering said this so well that, all you have to do is convince people that a certain segment of the population is their enemy and is trying
Yeah.
to take away what they value, and you
Mm,
can control them
look, and
easily
radicalized people are so easy to manipulate. All you gotta do is point them in a direction.
and weaponize them. Yes, and that's what we saw in 9/11.
You
I mean, it was
that
the spirit of resentment. Good.
that point in my life, I was in high school, and it very distinctly changed everything. It was palatable, and so it was at least for me being a young person and not having ever seen anything like, I mean, the Murrah building, I saw that. I didn't
1955.
understand. And, that was an awful thing. I was in 2nd or 3rd grade. And, then being in high school when 9/11 happened and really understanding, watching the people throw themselves out of the buildings and stuff, not I mean, that's horrific. And
Yeah, lost a friend in the second tower hit.
and I'm my condolences, and it's a horrible thing, and see, this is an ideological difference, right? Because for whoever is to blame, whatever happened there, because again, I can't take anything for face value. I know that I've been lied to so much. I'm skeptical of everything. So, who did what? I don't know. This is what I know. People died. We went to war,
And the ripple effects from that, which I was talking about earlier,
and
the
more
number
people
of
died.
deaths from, our military
Yeah,
actions, 2000,
yeah. Well,
are
and
quite disproportionate in terms
when
of reaction.
when I lived in Virginia, I was married to a guy that was in the Navy,
Okay.
and so, shipmates would leave on deployment, and they would come back, and they were completely different people.
Wow.
I
That's very intense, yes.
It is incredibly intense, and being, 18 to 22, I was on the older side. I was 21 when I moved to Virginia, and I was 24 when I left. And a lot of times, my ex-husband, he would bring shipmates home from the ship, and it was the first home-cooked meal that they had had since they left their home, like, with their like, the home-cooked meals and
They're
stuff.
doing the meals ready to eat, yeah.
Yeah, and so watching those boys, because they were predominantly boys, there weren't very many girls, we anyways, I'm not trying to be sexist or anything here, but it was predominantly young men. And they would go out on deployment and they would come back and they were completely disconnected. Mommy. And so why does this exist anyways, baby? What is it? I need that iron. No, you don't. Hold on, I'll be right back.
Take your time.
He
And while
need
we're
that
talking
on
about that, I'll try to
chat.
talk about,
You want some?
like,
No.
about
I
that.
want. You don't have a shirt on and you can't say hi without
That's anyway, she asked questions, and what we're talking about is, "Hi, how are you?" She's
You're so ornery.
tricky. That's a three-year-old? That's a good three-year-old.
Here,
Anyway,
put a shirt on.
distracted.
At least.
We were talking about 9/11 though, and I was in Denmark at the time, and I didn't know my friend Ricky was a fire marshal on the 101st floor. The second tower hit, first one to fall. He was last seen on the 78th floor, when I guess the second plane hit, and he was helping people get out. So he has helped save a lot of people. The ones who stayed on the stairs and took the stairs down survived, tell the tale of his actions that day. And we still memorialize him today. Fellow alumni get together. We march.
That
And we play.
tunnel grandpa. Nope, it's not.
Hey,
I mean, mom.
if you want to take this a little shorter, we can let you go to take care of your primary responsibilities.
So anytime I get on the phone or I'm doing something,
Oh, you've been on a
he
while.
gets a little extra. He's like, "Oh, mom's paying attention to something else. Let me distract her real quick." I mean, this is my baseline.
Sure.
And he gets lots of attention. But no, and it's really nice to hear that you memorialize your friend and, because that's what we do, right? As humans, we're supposed to honor the people that have passed.
Yep.
We're supposed to commune with the present and work toward a better future together. That's
Yeah,
how you stay in alignment,
we
you
try.
know?
I
And
think we probably ought to let you go to
they want to go
next
back
one.
home. They want to go back home. You want to go back home? Can I have 5 more minutes? No. Please?
I think we probably should just go ahead.
Yeah, I think he's done for the day.
I'll continue to talk a little bit with our guests.
Yeah.
But thank you
Thank
so much
you.
for your time today.
Yeah.
Visit again tomorrow, next week.
Yes, we will see each other next Friday. So thank you, everybody. We'll see you soon. Mommy? Yes,
Take a look at
baby. No, I don't.
ParaAIEconomy.com. Okay, well, Origin has left the meeting. I've got some things to do as well, so this actually works well for me. I've got to meet with some investment folks, and we've just been having a really good time overall. I got a call when we first started as well, so I want to get off and go call my other friend. ParaAIEconomy.com is what Origin is building. She's vibe coding it basically, and I think it's got a lot of room for, development. I recommend that anybody who's interested in supporting her, take a look at her work. And thank you so much for joining today. I don't think we need to belabor it too much more. Anybody have anything else they want to say in the chat? Going once, going twice. Well, thank you again for joining us. It's much appreciated. Out here.